Hello, everybody. Suzanne Taylor King here with Ethan Beute. Hello, my friend. I'm really excited for our conversation today.
Me too. Thank you.
Yeah, we were just talking a few minutes in the studio. This live stream is now a podcast. So we live stream and then it gets released as a podcast. And we were talking a little bit about who we serve, which yours has changed a little bit recently. And I love where your new direction is headed. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, it's interesting in some way, as is many people's story, especially when you have 2020 hindsight. It turns out to be a return to a community that I built a number of relationships with very deeply
Mm.
over a long period of time. So I left a software company that I joined when we basically had no customers and no revenue called BombBomb, video email, video messaging. How to put yourself back into more of your digital communication because that digital communication is increasingly faceless and increasingly automated. So how do we
Yeah.
bring it back to life? And we can get into all the benefits of that if we decide that that's where the conversation should go. But one of the first communities that we connected with early on when I joined in 2011 was the real estate community.
Mhm.
And I'll extend this to say, because I know a number of folks that you work with and that love what you're producing are in some of these zones: real estate, mortgage, financial advisory, insurance, and there are other ones too. But just let's focus on those because we all know someone who's in one of those businesses or multiple people in those businesses. And we understand those businesses because we're consumers or have been or aspire to be consumers of all those things. Who you are is fundamental to the service that you provide. Every one of those spaces is so commoditized. Every one of us, if I wanted to list my house for sale, I would have to decide who not to hire rather than search for someone who to
Yeah.
hire, you know? And it's
Yeah.
the same with an insurance policy, right? And if you don't know anyone, just ask three people and you'll get, 3 to 7 referrals. So
Yeah.
in a space like that, this idea of communicating as yourself through video messages was super compelling. So real estate folks found us very early on. We spent probably 5 years very actively going to conferences and events. I would do a real estate version and an everyone else version of all the marketing content I
Wow.
was creating. I would do a real estate version and a non-real estate version of the webinars I was producing. That's how deep and focused we were in that community. And so over the years at BombBomb, we attracted a wide variety of people. We started serving not just smaller teams, but very, very large organizations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I was there for about a dozen years. And one of my longtime friends and team members, my co-author on both books that I've authored, Steve Passanelli, earlier this year had found a company that was a great fit for him. And I ended up following him over there a few months after he joined and about 4 months from today, previous to today.
Wow.
So I've been with a software company called Follow Up Boss, essentially a real estate CRM, but it's very distinct in that it's an open and flexible platform that grows with your business. You can plug anything in, you can unplug anything, you can plug multiple lead sources in, you can distribute it across 3 people or 300 people, etc. So I joined them to start a new show, and I'll stop talking and give it back to you because I covered a lot of ground there. But essentially, it's
So
this
good.
return to a true, pure entrepreneurial community, which I absolutely love and respect so much. I think it's the driver of innovation, and I think it's the driver of growth in our economy at a very, very high level. So I love partnering back again very directly with entrepreneurs every single day.
Well, I love the fact that you've done that for one, and I'm passionate about the real estate market. I have a couple clients who are in that local market here in New Jersey, and I really feel as though they need these tools because it's such a mass market. I mean, I would argue that coaching might be very, very similar. Being distinctive and have it be a personal relationship is really the key to more sales. I mean, bottom line, if people don't remember this, then they're not going to say, oh, let me go find who to spend money on or with as a coach or a realtor or as a financial advisor because there's so many. It's like you could walk out your front door and I could hit 4 or 5 of those just in my neighborhood. So it really comes down to that personal relationship. And which goes to your chief evangelist role. Who's really talking about you, and it's because of that personal relationship that they're talking about you.
Yeah, fun fact from human-centered communication. We interviewed 11 different experts for it, and one of them was a
Mhm.
gentleman who's an EQ expert with 7 US patents in the analysis of facial coding data, like very much in this zone of connecting, communicating,
Yeah.
emotion, etc. And his name's Dan Hill. He's a PhD, super nice guy. He has a cool podcast where he reads books about emotional intelligence, in general, and interviews the authors. So it's a book podcast. So like it either teaches you what books to read or sometimes supplants whether or not you need to read the book. Like,
Uh-huh.
I just heard 45 minutes with the author. I feel like I got a good handle on this. In any case, one of the things that he shared with Steve and me when we were interviewing him for a chapter 4 of the book was that emotion drives both memory and motivation. Um, I'll say that one more time. Emotion drives both memory and motivation. So if you want to be memorable, there's this emotional component. And this doesn't mean you need to over emote or act or anything, but you need to provide some feeling. Like you're providing one regardless. And it could be flat, it could be one of
Yeah.
seriousness, it could be one of, energy and enthusiasm. It could be like who you are drives that in general. And you can be a little bit more intentional about it sometimes than others, but the feeling is the driver of the relationship. It's the driver of trust. It's because there's this emotional component. I feel some emotional reminder, some emotional resonance about the times that I have experienced you. And so that's
Mm.
why when someone says, hey, I'm looking in Essex, I'm thinking about, a 3-bedroom place there. Does anyone come to mind? If there's no emotional resonance with the time someone spent with you, whether or not you've ever served them or not, then you're not going to be top of mind. So memory is one, motivation is the other. If you are to guide people to act, if you're to inspire people to act, to make a decision, to take the next step, and this isn't always selfish and commercial, but in general, if you are to motivate anyone to think or act differently or to speak differently, there needs to be an emotional component to that. We move people through emotion. Last thing I'll share there is that 95% of our mental activity is sensory and emotive below the waterline. The vast majority of what drives us as human beings in our words, thoughts, and actions is subconscious. So we have subconscious feelings, subconscious thoughts, and those
Mhm.
are the drivers of all the other things. So not only do we need to be aware of that ourselves, but as service providers, and providers of products, the way that we're connecting and communicating with people is what is going to make us memorable and is what is going to motivate people to act in favor of us as the trusted person or the best source or whatever.
Well, all I can say is yes. Like, I don't know how to agree with you and celebrate what you just said anymore. My whole entire online life was about learning how to sell something to people who never met you. That's what I felt like in the beginning of my coaching journey 15 years ago. I felt like, all right, this doesn't make sense to me because I always, connected with people this way, whether it was in person or on the phone. And to go against that felt out of my character. To sell somebody something, a PDF or a course, when I was out of the equation, never felt like me. And it felt that resistance that, and I know so many entrepreneurs feel this resistance like, ooh, selling like that doesn't feel like me, or asking for sales in that way doesn't feel like me. And I want to just stress that if it doesn't feel like you, it's not going to work.
Correct,
And
because people, like, even if they can't articulate it, they can
mhm,
tell that something's not right. If you're not comfortable, they're not comfortable. I totally hear you on that.
yeah, yeah. And I think, at least for me, I had to be comfortable with the method, with the connection. And one of the things I notice about you is that you're very hands on. Whether you have a team or not, I don't know, because every interaction with you, and I hope that every interaction with me, I strive for it to actually be me, because otherwise I feel like it's disconnected from that emotion, from that passion that I have about people succeeding. And how does that how does that work for you in your business? Because I totally feel connected to you. We've never met in person. You were on my podcast when human-centered communication came out before, which I'm sure we're happy to re-release that conversation because it was great. I always feel like I'm dealing with you, and I think everybody feels that way with you.
Yeah. Oh, first of all, thank you. That's very kind. I appreciate it. And it's because it is me,
No.
and it's a tough thing for a lot of different people. For me, like when I think about why I'm doing there are lots of ways to spend our lives. And there are lots of different ways we can be motivated. There are lots of goals we can set for ourselves. I'm not the kind of person who needs to feel like a titan. Like I've built
Mm,
this massive thing and I've accumulated all of this fill in the blank, whether that's power or access or
yeah.
resources or staff or money or, wealth, whatever. I'm geared a little bit differently. And I would also say that relative to what you're speaking about before, I'm a little bit of a coward. Like, I don't have to, in the roles that I've been in, I don't have to ask for the sale. That's the privilege of an evangelist role, is that it's like, it's marketing, but it's not pure marketing. It's
Yeah,
sales, but it's not pure sales.
yeah.
It's customer service and customer success and account management, but not that either. It's product management and product inspiration, but it's not that purely. Like I get to dwell in all these different zones and I get to kind of pick and choose at some level what I involve myself in. And I
Mm,
find myself, this is just a privilege at this point in my career. I've put myself in positions where I feel like I can be more of myself and to be of my highest value. And of course, obviously, and I know this is more an audience of entrepreneurs than people like me who are a little bit too risk averse, or I don't know what it precludes me from being more entrepreneurial in my own life. But working inside an organization, uh, this is what everybody wants, right? You want your people, and I'm speaking to an entrepreneur with a staff of 6 or 60. You want each one of those people to be their best selves every single day. And so the goal is to align their needs and wants with what their team needs and wants, with what the
mhm.
organization wants. And the more you can kind of align those things, and it's not just outcomes and goals back to personality types and skill sets and strength areas, et cetera. There is that. But there's also that kind of purpose and mission and values alignment. I know that sounds a little bit soft to some people, but it super matters because it's what's underpinning what you and I have been talking about, which
Yeah,
is the way that I show up is enabled by the fact that the company I work for shares my values and my perspective about the right way to go about a commercial endeavor, which is
yeah,
in true service to the it's absolutely amazing what they've built. Just a quick aside here to inspire some entrepreneurs. Um, our software company was just acquired by Zillow for several $100 million, but it was started 11 years ago by 2 guys with $3,000.
amazing.
They each put in about $1,500, and the whole thing was built on what I call a culture of customer success, building based on customer needs,
Mhm.
keeping it simple, not making a product that does 85 different things. It's a pure CRM,
Yeah,
and the way they covered that ground of, well, our customers need this, our customers want that, our customers need to do this, they want to do that, this needs to be more in the CRM. They just opened up the platform so that you can plug any other tool or system into it. So rather than build it themselves, they created this very open and flexible philosophy and
yeah,
ecosystem and practice that allows them to be very pure to what their strength areas are and to focus exclusively and specifically on what customers need and take the things that you can make simpler, and make it simpler. Take the things you can automate and automate it. Highlight the things that need to be highlighted. And again, open it up so that other people who are playing to their strengths, we're really good at this. Well, that needs to be in here. Let's plug it in. Like, so that isn't necessarily what someone watching or listening needs to do with their own business, but what I want to emphasize is clarity of purpose, clarity of mission, knowing not just who you are but who you are not,
Yeah.
knowing what you want to do and what you do not want to do, so you can be in your area of strength and bring other people around you that and have them operate in their area of strength. And so again, for me personally, this idea of connecting, communicating, listening, learning, bringing that into other conversations at the right time, storytelling in audiences of 1 and 1,000 and everything in between. These are things that I really enjoy. These are the things that light me up. And so I'm privileged to be in a situation where I can do that all of the time. And I try to do it with everyone's best interests in mind. And I feel like if I got to a point where like, gosh, I really need, a virtual assistant to take these things over, I've probably moved out of my strength and passion area
Ooh,
or
yeah.
gone outside my bounds a little bit because that's what I do. I connect people and ideas and best practices and things. And I feel like my editorial judgment in doing that and the spirit in which I'm doing that
Mhm.
is fundamental to my doing it effectively in service of not just the people who I work with and the people who employ me, but all the other people that we need to be successful.
Wow. I I wanna go back first.
I cut. Yeah, that was there was a lot
That
there.
was that was a whole lot, and I'm gonna try to keep track of it all. Um, the the first thing that you mentioned about the company's mission and values and the employees being aligned with the company, I wanna just speak a little bit to how that encourages advocacy and that encourages people to be the voice and the marketing of a brand, which is something I didn't fully understand, but I experienced it in the dental world when I was there 15 years ago because I worked at the same office for 15 years and then retired from there and became a coach. But still to this day, I go there, still to this day, refer people to that practice. And when I was there, I could say I was responsible for 20 or 30 new patients per month, which is the typical goal of a dental practice is to have 20 or 30 new patients a month. So that meant the office spent nothing on marketing and advertising, which is huge because every employee felt that same way and was bringing people to the practice. And that's entirely possible in any profession. And I would argue that it's actually possible as a solopreneur because it's so much easier to sell someone else than it is to sell yourself.
Yeah.
Truly.
And those are at some level two sides of the same coin. I would extend
Yeah.
just going back to the team environment. Employee experience and customer experience are two sides of the same coin as well. At some level, you could even say the customer experience is simply the overflow of the employee experience. It's what it feels like to be inside the organization, spilled out in a human to human moment
Mm.
on the phone or in person or in a chat or these types of things. And so, with you on that completely.
Yeah. Now, Gordon, who's one of my favorite people, he's here with us live. He's like, how do you scale that? And Gordon, I would say, how do you scale that? I meet more people, talk to more people, give more people the same experience being with me. And Gordon knows the experience of being in my tribe, being in my circle. That's how you scale it. More people meeting you, knowing you, experiencing you, and being made feel like they're the only person in the world when you're having that conversation with them. And to me, that's scalable over weeks, months, years and years in business, and it just grows and grows and grows because you end up borrowing trust from other people, which is incredible in itself.
Yeah, I would also extend that to say if you are in an order. So first of all, there's a. I love the question, by the way, because it triggers a number of like really big ideas for me. One of them is that um, very often when something is broken in a customer or employee experience or a customer journey, it's because we're trying to scale the unscalable, or we're trying to scale something before we truly understand it.
Mm,
That's to say, you have to, before you like really, because scaling isn't just more, right? Scaling is, you can scale mediocrity and you can scale failure, right? So, and I would also add to that, we often automate things that we don't understand. I think we often confuse automation for scale as well. Those are not the same things. And so,
mm,
and I'm not offering this in a corrective manner, by the way. I'm just elaborating on the word scale for people who love the question as much as I do. And by that, I mean, we need to get our hands dirty in the work and get to that point of like, oh my gosh, I just can't take this anymore. I've heard it from 4 different people. This is what they seem to experience. 4 different people this week, but 45 different people over the past 4 months. Like, you need to understand, what does the employee or customer truly need in these moments? What does the employee or customer really need to feel, think, do, say in this moment? And from there, you can add some technology or add an automation to capitalize on that. And until we truly understand what is the pain in this moment and why does this keep coming up, I've tried to heavy lift it myself and I just can't do it anymore. Your
mhm.
own experience struggling with the thing that needs to be levered is what's going to allow you to do it in a proper, sustained, sustainable manner, such that the job continues to be solved, the problem continues to be solved preemptively before anyone actually experiences it. So it's that
Yeah.
that understanding that's critical. But in terms of like a team and scaling these types of interactions, this is going to sound a little bit too simple and perhaps even a little bit cliche, but it's really all about recruiting, interviewing, selecting, hiring, onboarding, coaching, and training. And I know that sounds like a lot. And I would just suggest, because I've been talking with real estate team leaders. So
Mm,
the logo behind me is for the show that I host now called Real Estate Team OS. It's all about starting and growing real estate teams. The team model in the real estate space is interesting. It's not completely new, but it's been emergent very much so over the past 5 to 10 years. And so I'm talking with people that are operating in a team model rather than in a traditional brokerage model. And what most of those people, that the team leader, the person who started this team and first brought a part-time assistant around them, then they hired 2 more people, one on a full-time basis and another one on a part-time basis, and ended up turning one of those people into a full-time person. Like, it starts in this way. Like, I need to solve problems in my business.
mhm,
And what most of them invariably discover, the personality type that starts the team, like the hardcore, passionate, type A,
mm.
visionary, hard driving, very sometimes a high D personality. None of these things are required. I'm just generally characterizing the type of person that is producing so much business. They need to start adding some automation and adding some scale and bringing in some resources around them to get to where they want to go. That visionary type of person, that hard driver, very often needs to bring an operationally minded person alongside them sooner than they think, in
Mhm.
order to do these things,
Yes.
to do better recruiting, to do better
Yeah.
interviewing, to do better selecting, to do better onboarding, and to do ongoing coaching and training. Now, the leader, the visionary, needs to inform that process. It needs to be reflective. But the same problem that was just asked, I think, is the same problem that those team leaders have, and that I've had dozens of conversations about over the past couple of months. And that's this: you got to where you are because you're an amazing agent. You provide a great experience. You have a great reputation in the community. You're growing by word of mouth and referral, such that you can turn down the ads and still have more opportunities in front of you than
Mhm.
you can personally manage yourself. Congratulations. You sold 107 homes on your own in, I'll just make this up, 2022. but you broke your back doing it. You broke some relationships doing it. You missed some of your daughter's soccer
Mhm.
games doing it, and you don't want to do that anymore. So you want to bring in some of this leverage and automation and scale. I know I'm lumping disparate things into one idea there. Those are not the same things. But in general, you need to add something so that you can get to where you want to go without continuing to break people and
Yeah.
things and opportunities. And so it's the same thing for a lot of entrepreneurs. And I think an operationally minded person to do the things that you either A, don't have time for, or B, aren't great at
Mhm.
is another way to scale a wonderful in-person experience, the same experience that made you successful before. When you used to write handwritten notes and package them up before you sent your products out,
Mhm.
um, I would argue that building a process for that rather than hiring a fake handwriting service to do it
Yeah.
is the better way. So
Yeah.
some relationships don't scale. That's what makes them valuable.
Say that again?
Relationships do not scale, and that is what makes them valuable. Things that are scalable, the best we can get is a little bit personalized and highly relevant.
Yeah.
Relevance trumps personalization every time, but we often mistake personalization for what's actually personal. Those things are, we can feel the difference. We know personalized. That's
Mhm.
some variable data slugged in, and it's like, I know your name. I know the last time you bought a product or a service. I know what zip code or neighborhood or street you live on or whatever. I know what school you went to, or I know where you work or used to work. And I slug
Right.
these things into my automated stuff. That's personalized. Personal, we feel the difference. And that's what you and I were talking about before I
Yeah.
got onto this rant, which is this how we make people feel by treating them very personally. You are the
Yeah.
most important person in my life at the moment. I'm fully present with you. I'm actively listening. I'm engaging. I'm trying to bring my
Yes.
best in order to help you in this moment. That's a difference people can feel. That does not scale. All we can do is try to operationalize it so that every time that opportunity comes up, we take advantage of it and we account for it from a profitability perspective. This person's going to actually spend twice as much time on the phone than metrics might suggest, and we need to figure out how to arrange that
Yeah.
in our business so that we can deliver that level of service or engagement profitably. Or we need to say that's not how we're competing. We don't compete on a personal touch. We compete on something else. I would suggest, though, that most smaller businesses and entrepreneurs need to be competing on customer experience in particular at some level. You're never going to compete on volume or price or whatever. Um, it's going to be on quality at some level, and that quality could be in the experience, like the human to human experience of what it's like to order a commodity product from you.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll stop talking.
No, I feel as though, so my mentor is one of the, or probably the highest paid female coach ever. She's 80 years old now, has a very small social media presence. If you email her, she responds. I'm in her, small group of coaches that she's mentoring now that she's getting ready to retire. Every single client that comes to her comes from word of mouth or a referral because of her results. And I would argue that even as she tries to retire, she got 3 referrals this year, which is $3 or more million a year of business as she's trying to retire. And that is all based on her results and the relationship she has with her past clients. And there's not a lot of them. It's not like she has 60,000 past clients. She only started coaching when she was 65 years old. To me, that is the most inspiring thing I've ever, ever heard. And when I truly feel that, that's all relationship and results driven. What kind of results can I get for this person in front of me or help them see? Nobody needs more information in this world because you can go out there and find how to do anything you want. People need ways of thinking differently, and you've done that so beautifully. today really inspiring to think differently about scaling, to think differently about relationships, and drive that borrowed trust moving forward. If we were sitting at lunch together right now having this conversation, my phone wouldn't be on the table. I might have a notepad to take notes. And that engagement piece, I think for me, is what drives people to talk about me in rooms I'm not in. And same for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's that presence, that attentiveness,
Mhm.
the cliche way to say it, or maybe even trite, is like, the most important person in the room. That's how you made me feel, right?
Mhm.
But it's a real thing,
Mhm.
and it's especially. I can't believe I'm gonna go here, but like especially today, where people don't give you the amount of attention that you deserve.
Yeah.
Um, they don't have the patience that's required to really deeply connect with somebody. So when we experience that on the receiving end, it is differentiating in and of itself. It's amazing how low the bar is for making someone feel like you care about them, and which is this is the reason I was a little bit hesitant to go here. Is like it's a really sad thing to say, but it's
Mhm.
so true, especially in a commercial context. I mean, there are
Yes.
personal relationships, family, friends, but you'll even experience some of that there too, because there are people who keep that phone on the table and they keep nodding and they keep looking and they're like, oh yeah, oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But they've got their phone in their hand. And so um, it's not hard to do. It is massively differentiating, and it's truly remarkable. I mean, I hate to borrow a Seth Godinism, but it's truly worth talking about.
Mhm.
And this is the referral experience that you're describing for your coach.
Well, and now we're just giving away my secret to how I have people feeling like they're the most important person to me when they're with me, which means they talk about me when they're not with me. And it truly, I'm not faking it when I'm with the person. I think this is key.
It
Uh,
is. It doesn't work otherwise.
yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. But if it's real, if you can truly be that person with other people, then I don't even know what to say. It becomes just who you are, and if that's who you are, then you can go out there in the world and accomplish so much by being that. By asking yourself, who am I being in that situation? Um, and and maybe it's just thinking about marketing differently. Who am I being if I send out 1,000 messages with just the name being different for each message? Who am I being in that situation? Am I just looking for acknowledgement or a sale or whatever? Or who am I being when I actually go out there and connect with people and help them?
Yeah.
Who, I don't know who said it. Help more people get what they want and you'll get what you want. Um, but I fully believe that that's true.
Absolutely, it is. And to your point, people can tell the difference. They might not always be able to
Mhm.
articulate it explicitly. They might not even be consciously aware of it, but when we are faking it, they know. That's why I would always discourage someone who doesn't believe what they're saying not to send video messages,
Yeah,
because people can
don't.
tell. They can tell, and they won't say, "Oh, that person's full of it." Now, we've all seen that athlete or celebrity or politician at the press conference apologizing for some discretion, indiscretion.
Yeah,
Um, and we all know which ones are reading a legal document and they don't mean a single word of it, and which ones are
yeah,
actually, sincerely apologetic about the situation. And so we're really, really good at it. That is a unique and distinct human strength.
yeah,
Um, and that sincerity is what is remarkable.
yeah. Well, it took a long time to lean into who it was, um, for me, like, who it was truly for me, and I think once I was able to, you know, pick up my phone and send a voice message or a video message. It was like, yo, what's up? How are you? I saw that post of yours on LinkedIn and it was amazing. You got like 60 comments. Incredible. Keep it up. You're doing a great job. That's how I would talk if you were standing here in my office with me. So why can't that translate into business and life and video and actually generating interest and income for your business? It took a long time for me to say, "Oh, just relax a little bit and be yourself." And that way you repel the clients who aren't a good fit for you
There's a lot
anyway.
of fear around that too. Like there are a lot of, oh,
Oh, I know, I had it.
I can't afford to say no. Like, well,
Mm.
eh, I mean, there's an opportunity cost to everything too.
Mhm.
Saying
There
yes to something is very often, especially the smaller the scale of the organization, the more you say yes to something, the less you can say yes to something else.
Mhm.
So rather than leaving a vacuum or an opportunity for the right thing, you're occupying it with something that's very obviously the wrong thing. And so I appreciate your call to repelling less than ideal situations by being yourself, or
Yeah.
or 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 by having, it doesn't necessarily all have to be personality driven either. I would just give
No.
this to like a business operator, like understanding who you are prepared to serve best is ideal. Your employees will be appreciative the more that your marketing and sales process attracts and speaks to the people that you're going to serve well and repels the people who don't, because you're going to have fewer cancellations, you're going to have fewer complaints, you're going to have fewer like requests for products or features that are just not in line with where you're going and who you are and what you're good
Yeah.
at. And so it's just less noise in the system when you remove, before they even enter, like you just like you stand at the front and you say, you're not welcome
Mhm.
here, this is not a good fit. Like this isn't a good fit. And it's really hard to do because
It
it's a
is.
revenue opportunity. It's hard. I have a hard time telling people no.
Mhm.
So like and just another interesting fun fact from my own experience. I don't know if you or your clients have experienced the same. There are a lot of personality types where when you tell someone they can't have something, they want it even more. And so like when you
Yeah.
first put up that gate, be like, hey, I don't know that we're a good fit. They don't, that makes them feel like, well, what's wrong with me? And so they want to like contort or conform or tell you the right thing or, work their way in because everyone needs approval. Everyone needs acceptance. And so just a couple of cautions there on A,
Yeah.
taking on the wrong client or customer, and B, what you're going to get the first time you try to offer some resistance. You're gonna be like, and you're going to believe them. You're going to be like, oh yeah, maybe I was misjudging the
Mhm.
situation. Maybe this second reaction that they're giving me is the right one.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but
I
I think
I would say, uh, with a lot of the coaches I have worked with and, um, the fear of, repelling people is scary, number 1. Um, but I would argue that the stress of working with a less than ideal client actually deters from your coaching ability, your attractability of other people. Like you said, if you're working with the wrong people, there's no room for, the super right people. And slowing down the sales process is a skill in itself. So, slowing it down to the point of where you're actually making sure that that person is a good fit for you and not maybe someone else that you refer to, that's key. But also, when you slow down that sales process, the person in front of you has a chance to self-identify whether that's really for them or not. And I'm going to throw out this perfect example of a friend who wanted to hire me, a friend from a long time ago, and she admired my personality and my online presence. And she's like, I want that. And by slowing down the process, I asked, are you willing to have your face on this and do videos here and do these, outward marketing things? No. I'm never doing that. And I said, then you can't have what I have. You could have something, has to be in a different way. And it became very clear on my list of zone of genius things, she was not going to do one of them. So, not a good fit to work with me. I love you, but it's going to be stressful for me and her ultimately.
Yeah.
Right. And that getting past that fear of turning people away, it's universal. Real estate, financial advisors, insurance brokers, coaches, consult any solopreneur who's out there meeting people.
And that's the power of putting yourself into more of your marketing.
Yeah, for sure.
Fewer of those people, fewer misaligned or poor fit customers will engage you. And that was another thing I would hear a lot about video messages. Like, well, what if people, judge me for my video and they don't want to work with me? Like, great.
Yes.
Better than going back and forth 3 times in email, getting on a phone call, finally meeting in person, and they make the exact same judgments about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than getting a new client and then all of a sudden you start being yourself and it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And I know that so many people out there have experienced that. So if you're having people drop off after a month or 3 months, it's because you sped up that process a little too quickly and maybe it wasn't the right fit person in the beginning.
Right.
Well, I love it. What are you working on next? What's next for you?
Again, I just launched this show. It's video on YouTube. It's audio in all the podcast players. It's write-ups in the website, which is a distinct website from the company that I'm doing this on behalf of. And so I'm just on this mission. I have not been a real estate agent or a real estate team leader or a real estate broker owner, but I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of them. So I'm not the customer, and I'm also not a CRM expert. I am on a mission to explore and understand the team model and to provide some guidance to solo agents thinking about starting a team or joining a team, and to people who have a team, whether they are a broker owner, it's a more traditional brokerage model, or a teamerage model. There's also that hybrid. So I'm just exploring this topic and talking with people and releasing the conversation. It's been an absolute joy. There's a lot more to go there. We launched it kind of crazy with 3 episodes a week. Which I don't think I'll do again. It's like too much content for our team and too much content for the people that are interested in it. But it's been an awesome journey. That's really what I'm all in on right now.
I love it.
In addition to some other stuff, I also host another podcast called Chief Evangelist, which I'm doing kind of mornings, nights, weekends for fun and interest. I regard it as my own active, ongoing professional development to interview other people in evangelist roles and to try to normalize that language because I think it carries some connotations with different people, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. And it feels, if you're unfamiliar with it, it feels like a fake made up thing, but it's not. One of the people I've interviewed on it is, I've interviewed him twice, is Guy Kawasaki, who was originally a salesperson at Apple. In the very, very earliest days. He was a product evangelist as well. Yeah. And then he left, got in kind of an argument internally, left, and then got hired back by Steve Jobs as chief evangelist. And he wrote a book 30 years ago called The Macintosh Way. It's his first of whatever he's at, 16, 17, 18 books now. And he had an entire chapter dedicated to evangelism. And so, I think it's interesting. I think it's powerful. I think it is reflective of the way especially mid-size and larger organizations need to go to market, which is to actually live in market, to be in market, and to have someone who has this blend of authority, credibility, subject matter expertise, passion, care, curiosity, storytelling ability to facilitate all of the connections and communications between potential customers, sales, marketing, product or whoever's developing the customer experience, certainly the customer service, account management teams, et cetera. Like it's kind of essentially the role as a free agent within the organization. Some are more oriented internally. That tends to be in a much bigger organization. Some are oriented externally at conferences, events, podcasts, et cetera. That's generally for a smaller organization that needs to advance the broader idea that they're evangelizing. So anyway, obviously I have a lot of passion about that. I'm
Yeah.
interviewing people and doing that for fun too. So that's the deal. And then I try to get outside as much as I can.
Awesome. Well, I have so many people who are going to love this conversation. From my chief evangelist, Daniel Andrews, who he literally sings my praises everywhere he goes. So thank you, Daniel. And, the real estate agents who I've worked with do not have teams, but we are
But
moving.
they may join one. That's a
Yes.
super interesting opportunity.
Yes.
And if any, I'll offer this: any of the solo agents out there watching or listening, who are like, "Why would I ever do that?" Send
Mhm.
me an email. It's just ethan@followupboss.com. And I will not try to sell you on this idea, but I will share with you what I've heard from team leaders and from solo agents on this opportunity. I know what your points of resistance are. I won't list them here. And I want to share some perspective on that. If I'll call it team curious, if anyone is team curious, I don't want to commit, but I'm kind of curious, like, what is this
Yeah.
and why would he
Yeah.
even be pursuing this? I'm happy to communicate with anyone. It's just Ethan, ETHAN @followupboss.com.
I love it. Well, I have a couple on my list that will be getting that information. Thank you so much, Ethan, for joining me for your second round of appearance with me. I appreciate you and our relationship and the work that you do. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I look forward to future conversations.
Thank you. I appreciate you too. It's an absolute gift to share this time and this platform that you've built with you and everyone else who's participating in it. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. You too.